Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever time of day it is you're watching this program or listening to this program. Welcome to Philadelphia Eagles Talk with Geoff. I want to give a shout out to my audience there on Spotify, Odyssey, all of the platforms there in the podcast world, Apple and iHeartRadio. And welcome to the YouTube community as well, as we launched the YouTube channel right at the beginning of the season. So still really working to establish a solid subscription base there. So if you're just looking now or watching now, if you like what you see, hit the like and subscribe and leave a comment, because we're always will comment or answer any questions, comments, address any comments on the follow-up podcasts going forward. So eventually we're going to be doing live streaming once we build up enough of a base here on YouTube. So welcome and appreciate you jumping on. All right, so the Eagles come away with a victory over the Jaguars this weekend, 28-23, a game that the final score is not indicative of the game. The Eagles really dominated through most of it. There was kind of a crazy touchdown that the Jags got. We'll talk about that in a minute. And some questionable coaching and coaching decisions by Sirianni we'll dive into as well. The bottom line is the Eagles get their fourth win in a row, one that they did impressively for the most part, again, especially offensively. This team seems to be really getting it going. And we're going to talk about some game notes that I have. But before we get it started on that, I just want to let you know about the upcoming schedule for the week. Wednesday or Thursday, yet to be determined, but Wednesday or Thursday evening, we will be having our midweek podcast. And it's Dallas Hate Week. So, do I need to say any more? So we'll have, what I'd like to do is when we play the NFC East, have representatives from their team come on, join the podcast and talk about their team and the game. And we'll do that this week. We'll have at least one, maybe two Cowboy fans join the podcast as we'll go back and forth and talk about the upcoming game. Be interesting right now, especially with the Cowboys, to get their fans' perspective, or a couple fans' perspective here on how the season's going. And how the team just seems to be just imploding right on TV before all of our eyes. As Eagle fans, it's to our delightment for sure. So, we'll see. We're going to see some insight as far as what the Cowboy fans are experiencing right now and what the thoughts are. And Matt will also be joining us as he normally does in the midweek podcast as well. So looking forward to that. Make sure you subscribe now so you don't miss out. And you can check that show out when it does post. All right. So, and then eventually, I do plan on having live streams. Just right now, as I'm just trying to establish and get going here on YouTube with a following and a subscription base. Really, that's another reason why I need you to subscribe if you don't mind. It's because I won't start doing live streams, so it makes sense to do that, right? So, once we build enough of an audience, we'll be going live, and then we'll be able to engage with you live. So that's really the end goal here. All right, so let's Matt and I predicted the game. Matt, I predicted the game to be 31-13. So I was close. Eagles got 28. And the Cowboys, if you really take away that touchdown that they had, would have had 16. So I was pretty much right there with my prediction. And Matt had 28-13. So he hit the Eagles score right on the nose. And the Jags, like I said, should have had 7 points less than they had, or really 8 because they kicked the extra point. So I think we nailed the game pretty much with our prediction. My thoughts, let's start with Jalen Hurts because, I've been critical of Hurts, especially those of you who've been with me when I, from the days on the, just on the audio podcast. I've been up and down and kind of all over with Hurts, and I give him praise when he certainly deserves it. And I've been very critical of him when I also believe he deserves it. And early on this year, I was, he was doing a lot of the things that he was resorting and falling back to a lot of his bad habits of running out of the pocket too soon, always over to the right, just ruining the play when he does that. Just really quick to just leave the pocket, even though it's still there, just seeing phantom pressure. He's doing less of that. I still see it a little bit, but he's doing less of it. And but the thing that I noticed this last game that kind of came off the page to me as I was watching was he's throwing the ball over the middle more, which is also something I've been pleading with him to do. He always throws down the sidelines well, but not so much over the middle. And he's starting to throw more over the middle, I've noticed. So I think that's a good thing. That's a positive step for Hurts. I don't know if that has to do with more calling those plays or just Hurts reading the defenses more. But whatever the case is, that's a good positive step for Jalen Hurts. That's what he was doing, a couple of years ago when the Eagles went to Super Bowl. He was seeing the whole field and throwing over the whole field. So that's a good sign. And he has been vastly improved since the bye week. So, before the bye week, even though the Eagles were winning some games, the Eagles just weren't firing on all cylinders. You can clearly tell it. Certainly he wasn't. But he's played much better since. Certainly it helps when he's not turning the ball over either. It's the fourth straight game where he has not turned the ball over. So that's obviously always a plus. So that's one thing I noted. The other things, Cooper DeJean continues to impress since he's, become a starter now and has been incorporated into his defense more. He's a difference maker out there. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about it at this point. He plays the run very well. In coverage, he's very good. He's a very instinctual player. You can kind of see that already. I did notice that most of his blitzes, the Jags covered up pretty well, so they must have game planned for him blitzing, because he showed that in previous games and tape. So I thought the Jags, whenever Cooper did blitz, they usually had somebody, and it was even a lineman usually on him, and he's not going to be able to run through a lineman. So I thought that the Jags did a good job of they must have just did a lot of tape study on when he blitzes. But he blitzes pretty well too, though. So I just think Cooper DeJean is he's going to be a great player. I mean, I'm using the word great. It might be crazy to say that so early in his career. It's been a few games. Sometimes you can just tell. Sometimes you just tell the players that got it. And what's really good and striking is that not only is he got it, but so does our number one pick, and then Mitchell. Mitchell just continues every week to just shut down. Now, again, the Jags don't have a great wide receiver group, but he's shut down some other really good players when he's been in there too. So, and they didn't have Slay, So, Isaiah Rodgers had to come in and lock down his side. So, I think the Eagles got depth. That's what I said to Matt during the week when I found out Slay wasn't going to play. I'm like, I'm not as concerned. I mean, past years, we'd be like majorly concerned if Slay wasn't going to play because that's all they had. It was Slay and a huge drop-off. Now they not only got somebody come in and replace Slay, but they have somebody good on the other side. So the Eagles' secondary is becoming, I won't say it's there yet, but it's becoming one of their strengths on this team. Zach Bond, there's another guy. Howie's going to deserve a lot of credit for at least one off-season move that he made. The other one in Huff looks like it's a complete bust. But Bond, bringing him in here as a linebacker, has been a huge addition to this team. He's amongst the top 5 in tackles. He was all over the place again in this game. He caused another turnover. He's been really good. Really good. So hopefully the Eagles start talking to him about a contract extension because I think they only brought him in for a 1-year deal. Here's a guy. I wouldn't wait much longer. I think he's shown enough for Howie to just, start talking to him now. Now his agent probably is going to be hesitant, of course, and play the cards knowing he's having a really good season so he can cash in. But hopefully Howie is starting to have those type of conversations. They can start, thinking about locking him up for a 3 or 5 year contract or something like that. I mean, I think I would definitely do that, at least 3 years. I think he's still pretty young, so I don't know why they wouldn't, try to get him for 5 years. Maybe Bond's only going to want a few years, but either way, bottom line is he's a big part of this defense. And then Sidney Brown was on the punt return. He's the guy who made the hit, and this is what we're talking about having Sidney Brown on this team, and they haven't even really got him in on the defense yet. Because of the depth that I'm talking about. It's been hard to get him on the field. I wouldn't even put Monte Maddox. I mean, the guy has had a good career here with the Eagles. I think you start putting Sidney Brown in whenever you have these Maddox plays, and maybe even release Maddox. I don't know if he doesn't want to, hit the bench. I think if you put him in the practice squad, he'd probably be picked up by somebody else, maybe. But I think it's time to bring Sidney Brown in on this defense more as well. But special teams, something to play. I mean, he's the guy who nailed the returner, and he caused the turnover. So I mean, he's right now he's only on really playing special teams. So love Sidney Brown, man. This guy, he's between him and I just envision the starting, secondary to have Cooper DeJean or DeJean. I mean, I fear in his name both ways. Um, you know, Sidney Brown, and of course Blankenship and Mitchell. I mean, it's the future of our team, and then we got to figure out once Slay goes who's the other corner is going to be. But yeah, and CJ Johnson's not having the greatest year either. So I don't know if they'll start bringing Sidney Brown in for him yet, but he's not playing all that great. I mean, he's obviously got the experience back there, but CJ Johnson has not had as good a season as he had when he was back with us, when he was with us the first time around. I think that's pretty clear. But we'll see. Either way, I'm excited about it all. That's the underlying reason I'm bringing him up. The other, obviously, move that Howie made, it was Saquon Barkley. That one I think we all kind of knew. So you see he was healthy. That was going to be a huge acquisition. Barkley, that everyone's talking about it. We all saw it. If you haven't seen it, go see it. The one run that he had where he did a spinorama into a backwards hurdle through the air to dodge a tackler. Never seen that in all of my about 44 years of watching football. I've never seen a player do a backwards hurdle in the air, leapfrogging a would-be tackler. Just defies gravity. It was just an amazing play. And then just the overall game that he had, another 100-yard game, another touchdown, his catch early on, his first touchdown of the game to give the Eagles the lead, another really great, sort of wheel route that he ran. And kept his toes in. He catches the ball in the end zone like a wide receiver. He knows how to drop the legs. Maybe Smitty has taught him how to do that, or he just knew how to do that already because he's just a great player. I mean, Barkley is an elite running back when he's healthy. I mean, he is. He is a top one or two. You can make an argument with McCaffrey out. Derrick Henry, of course, having a great year. But, I mean, he's phenomenal, and he continues to produce. I thought that defensively, Carter and Sweat, were showing a pretty decent amount of pressure during the game. So I want to keep that up because the Eagles D-line needs to continue to get the pressure in there. Sweat really has come on in the last couple of weeks, I thought, getting to the quarterback. And how about Dotson with a nice catch in the game? So I still think you need to utilize him more, but he made a nice catch downfield. And then the guy I've been talking about, and you know what I'm talking about. Those guys, again, those of you out there to go back to my days on just the audio podcast, I made the prediction. I've talked about it on this since I've gone to YouTube. I don't want to keep repeating it, but I know I'm getting new audience members looking at this, so I'm going to repeat it at least for a little bit. I made the prediction when they drafted Nakobe Dean that within 3 years that he would be the leader of the defense. Up until, I don't know, week 4 this year, that looked like the most ridiculous comment ever, and I kind of, I pride myself in knowing football and knowing character of guys and seeing enough to make those type of predictions. I don't just say it just to say it. Now, that one was pretty early to say that, before he even plays it down in the NFL was kind of, you could say that was kind of an outlandish prediction. But I just, I thought that he's the type of guy that can be the team leader in defense. And I've been ripping him, up until about maybe the bye week this year, about his not being able to wrap and tackle, bouncing off guys. His coverage was bad, just not showing much at all. In fact, I started doubting if he was even be on the team. Okay, so even though that I made that prediction, I wasn't fanboying him at all. I was very critical of his play and of my prediction. So, but that being said, there's no doubt that the last few games, now he's got put together 3 straight games in a row where he is really coming on. And the play he made to seal the deal, it's amazing that the Eagles actually had to seal the deal in this game that they dominated. But we'll get into the reasons why in a moment. But he made an amazing catch for a guy to his size, especially. He talked about the play, and he said that, it was a play that he went to school on. And he said he was ready for that type of play. He's like, he said that he was expecting them to actually make that throw to the end zone, and he was ready for it, and certainly he was, and then he made the catch. It's one thing to be ready for it, and it's another thing to make the interception to end the game. And so, great job by Nakobe Dean. And again, this is now 3 straight games where he has looked now that he could very well be the starting middle linebacker for this team for many years to come, and be that defensive captain that I predicted he would be when they first drafted him. Again, just not saying he's there yet for that, for that type of scenario, but he's getting there. I mean, this is 3 straight games in a row, and he is actually taking the defensive calls as being the middle linebacker. So he is right now kind of like the general of the defense back there, at least in terms of the play calling, getting to play to everybody. So major thumbs up for Nakobe Dean. Now, a couple of the reasons why this game ended up close is what's concerning to me. And I know that a lot of Eagle fans are on the same page with me when I talk about the Sirianni calls. Nick, you have to take the points. You don't always have to go for it, especially when you know this year. If he doesn't know now, if he didn't know then, he needs to know now that they are not as good. It's a combination of 2 things. Number one, the Eagles are not as good as executing the tush-push as they were without Kelsey. And it's probably a combination of the fact that the defenses are just getting better at stopping it. So between those 2, whatever the case may be, right, you're not as good at it. It's not automatic, certainly, anymore. So take the points. Take the damn points. What are you trying to prove? He was chasing the points that he missed in the first miss the rest of the game. So they missed the first touch push to going for 2, or was it going for 2? Yeah, he went for 2. Wasn't able to make it. He's chasing those points the rest of the game. You cannot operate that way in the NFL. And you saw it almost snake bit him. They almost ended up blowing this game because of it. Gave away 8 points in the game. 8 points given away by your coach. And then you send out, you don't kick Elliott for most of the game with these field goal opportunities. You pass on it and go for it on 4th down. And then you put him out there and expect him to kick a 57-yard field goal, cold as ice. It's just, it's a avalanche effect, I guess. It started here the first quarter, and then by the time you get to the 57-yard field goal later, it was just rolling. It was just snowballing on them. That's the term I was trying to think of. Avalanche snow. So it's just, you can't do that. You can't do that. Sirianni needs to be smarter. He needs to figure this out, because he's going to cost the Eagles a game, likely in the playoffs, by making a stupid decision like this. It's one thing to be aggressive as a coach. You can still be aggressive and still pass on going for it all the time on 4th down. I already mentioned last show how I'm just sick and tired of the tush push in general. I'm tired of it. Another reason why you should run it less, right? Which is what I'm saying, at the goal line, just hand the ball off to Barkley or run a different play. You don't need to run the tush push every time you're inside the 5. It's stupid. And the more looks you give defenses, the better they're going to be at stopping it. That's just a matter of fact. So when you keep running these tush pushes 5-6 times a game, you're just setting yourself up for failure, if you ask me. Run it less. Run it when you really need to run it. Otherwise, take the points when you need them, when they're there for you, and run other plays inside. Hand the ball off to Barkley when you're inside the 2-yard line. There's no need to keep going for it on 4th down all the time. And there's no need to do tush pushes on the goal line or the 1 or 2 yard line all the time. I'm so tired of it. This has been a thing that's been going on with me for a while now in terms of my aggravations, the number of times that they use the tush push. All right. Got that vent out of the way. The other thing is the Barkley fumble. This is what's being deemed as a major controversy and all this. Now, I'll say this honestly. It's true, honest. This is even before I watched it in slow motion and all the analysis is done on it since. When I first saw the play, I thought it was a fumble. And I will honestly say that I thought it was a fumble. And the reason why I thought it was is similar plays that I've seen in the past. You will see guys stumble over themselves, go to the ground, get back up, and keep running, and the play's still alive. And when I first saw the play, that's what I thought happened. I didn't think that even if he was touched really by the guy, which apparently he was, got a little tap on the ankle, which may or may not. This is where the trickiness comes in. Let him stumble into his own player, which ultimately tripped him down to the ground. See, for me, I don't think the tap on the shoe caused Barkley to go down. I thought it was his own player who caused Barkley to go down. He ran. I can't remember who was in his way. It was, Dickerson. I don't know who it was. One of the guards, the center. I'm not sure who it was. Jurgens. I forget who the player was. Doesn't matter. So Barkley goes down by really tripping over his own guy. Yes, he was tapped on the ankle just before that. To me, what I'm getting at is I thought it was actually, I don't know if I'll call it a good call, but I was okay with it. To me, here's what the other thing I want to mention. You and maybe older Eagle fans that are watching, you remember, I think it was against the Eagles. If it wasn't against the Eagles, I think it was. Eli Manning had this one play where he didn't slide to the ground. He had decided to run the ball, and rather than sliding, he dove forward and lost the ball on his own. So he was like giving himself up, but instead of sliding, he went forward with the ball and fumbled on the ground and lost it. And it was ruled a fumble. And it was ruled a fumble because he didn't slide with his feet, giving himself up. He dove forward with the ball onto the ground and lost it, and they called it a fumble recovery for the Eagles. Those of you, watching this, if you remember that play, comment, let me know. But when I was watching the Barkley fumble, that's kind of what it took me back to, and that's what I thought. I'm like, to me, it looked like a legitimate fumble. I know a lot of Eagle fans are like all over the refs and even an explanation of it because he got, lightly tapped on the ankle before he ran into his own guy and went down. I personally don't think that ankle tripped him up. I think it was he got tripped up by his own guy. And that's, I think, the refs interpreted it. And obviously when they reviewed it, they interpreted it that way. So I don't have a major issue. I'm not crying over it at all. I think Barkley needs to do a better job of securing the ball. So I'm more harping on Barkley over being a blown call. Probably on the minority with that take. It's going to be interesting to see when I talk to Matt on Wednesday what he thought about it. I know that he thought it was a bad call. So more than likely we're going to be maybe have a little disagreement or debate on that. We'll see what his thoughts are. He said time to digest the play. Those are my thoughts on the Barkley fumble. But bottom line is the Eagles gave up 18 or 16 points because they converted both of their 2-point conversions within seconds. So suddenly it was 22-0, went to 22-16 in the blink of an eye. And all of a sudden the Jaguars were in the game. And of course they were having the drive with 2 minutes left. And they're only down 5 points or so. So they had a chance to take the lead late in that game until Nakobe Dean made the interception. And to me, saved Sirianni from having a hellish week with the press having to explain themselves for a lot of his stupid decisions during the game. So that is really my take on the Jaguars game. Dallas is up next. And we'll talk about it on our next podcast. Again, make sure you subscribe so that you see it and are able to watch it. We're going to talk Dallas Cowboys. We're going to have some guests on from not from the Cowboys themselves, but a couple of Cowboy fans will come onto the program, and we're going to talk about the Cowboys and the game. But some breaking news there. You got it doesn't look like Dak Prescott is going to play in the game. I heard a report today he's going to be out several weeks, or at least a few weeks. So it looks like it'll be Cooper Rush playing for the Cowboys. And I know CeeDee Lamb got banged up in the game too. So I heard that he said he plans on playing this week, but I think he has a shoulder injury with him. So we'll see. Of course, on our side, A.J. Brown missed most of the game, or at least half the game for us. There was an MRI that came back. It looks like it's more of a bone contusion in the knee and not anything structurally wrong with the knee. That's the early report. So it looks like A.J. Brown has escaped any type of serious knee injury. But this could still be something where the Eagles hold him out this weekend and he maybe not play. So we'll have to keep an eye on A.J. Brown's status as we go through the week. So that's it. That's it for the podcast. Again, I hate to repeat myself, but listen, when you're starting a new channel on YouTube, you really want to make sure you get as many people watching and contributing as you can. So if you like what you heard and you want to, especially for Dallas Hate Week, make sure you subscribe and be part of the program going forward. Really appreciate it. All right, with that being said, we'll see you in a couple days as we talk about the Dallas Cowboys. Eagles Cowboys coming this weekend, so it doesn't get any better than that. And we'll be here to talk about it. So hopefully you will be too. All right, thanks again for watching. And until next time, fly Eagles fly. We'll catch you all later. Take care.